for your work. And thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay, sure. Okay.
Debbie Fischer, everybody. I know it's going to shock you, or Deb, as they like to call her, and Deb's husband, whatever his name is, with the drawn-on pupils. The way they behave towards Kamala Harris is the perfect embodiment of the way MAGA treats everyone, other Republicans too, for that matter. But it is the perfect embodiment of a fascist movement, of the way cruel, evil people that like to play with others, the way I referred to it on Tony's show, wiping lint off of your shirt. People that are worse than you, people that aren't at your level. It's why Donald Trump can tweet out stuff about taking over Greenland or taking over Canada, right? Or whatever stupid thing is going around his mentally addled cerebral fluids floating out of his ears. He enjoys the cruelty, and he enjoys saying, I'm above you. That's what this is about. What they loved about this election is a whole lot of people felt, and people that should have known better, some Latino men, some young white men, others, plenty, anyone, white women in many cases. I mean, they went and voted for somebody, and this person, if they get in a room with him, kind of like the Tim Scotts of the world or Richard Grenells, yeah, when you leave the room, they're talking about you. They're a very elite group of them, and they are better than you. So that's who Bill Fischer was and is. He's better than you. I think it's Bill. Who cares, right? Bill, Bob, I'm gonna just call him Pupils McGee. He walked in, and on just January 3rd, 3 days before, if the Republicans had lost, they would have been storming the Capitol. And he went and, they did the swearing in. Kamala Harris is the vice president. She handled it with grace and class, as she always does. Deb Fischer, to her credit, I don't like giving her credit because she's a right wing on everything, handled it fine. And this man, not only would he not shake Kamala Harris's hand, but he wouldn't look her in the eye. He would not lower himself to make eye contact with the vice president of the United States. That to me said more than even the handshake. You see, because they're better than us. And I started looking at their story. And even after I just talked on Tony's show, well, it's quite a story. Friends of theirs, the Fischers, who had had this ranching property since the 1890s, let them share it. Here they let these other people go and use property that was theirs. So what did the Fischers do? They turned around and tried to use a provision in court to steal the ranch in its entirety. Say, well, they allowed our cattle to graze on their ranch. That makes it our ranch. They let us squat there. It's ours. Yes, friends gave it to them. If this isn't the billionaire mindset, if this isn't the monopoly mindset, what is, folks? Friends do you a favor, and you try to steal from them. So they failed at that. But then the gentleman, I think his name was Kimes, died, and they were going to turn it into a national park. Oh, but luckily Deb Fischer was on the state Senate, and she made sure this multi-million-dollar piece of property was able to be turned over to her and her husband. Wow. Making the laws, not having a rule of law, making the laws to benefit themselves and their rich cronies. That doesn't sound at all like the billionaires and right-wingers who are in control right now, does it? So they took over this huge piece of land, and old Pupils McGee there got to take over. And I mean, like when I saw this guy walk in, I mean, this is a cartoon. I mean, if Jim Crow came to life, he would be Bill Fischer. If Mitch McConnell came back to life, he would be Bill Fischer. I mean, I think I saw him in Shaun of the Dead. He's just a caricature of this old, cranky, rich white guy. And they are the ones. Are they all white? No. Are they all straight? No. Are they all Christian? No. But that's the genesis of it. That's the main part of the movement, if we're being honest. And others who are willing to kiss their butts enough glom onto it. And then when they're no longer useful, they get chucked. Because Tim Scott, as I said, walks out of the room and they're like, do we need the black guy anymore? So it's us against them. They stole someone else's property. They would steal yours in a second, and they're in government now. What does that bring us to? What happened in the past 2 weeks? People are literally lining up to let Donald Trump steal their money. Corporations who are supposed to represent their shareholders and not kiss Donald Trump's rather large orange rear are giving him millions and millions of dollars for his inauguration. Jeff Bezos, of course, crushed a cartoon and would not allow a cartoon critical of him and his tech bros. Hey, bro, oligarchs who don't care about anybody else and just want to run this country as they see fit because they're better than us, again, like Fischer is. And he wouldn't let the editorial cartoonist resigned. That's courage. That's where we need to be. Then there's going to be a documentary made, I'm not kidding you, on Amazon on Melania. Guys, have you seen some of those pictures? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get myself demonetized or anything, but how many pictures is she in with the other ladies? Are they going to be in interesting poses? Are they going to include her whole life? How she came into this country allegedly, illegally, allegedly got her parents in here illegally, was working illegally here, while, you know, doing, let's call them not tasteful nudes. A documentary on Melania. We're going to do a documentary on Gary Busey next? I don't know. What have we fallen to? So that's what he's also doing to kiss their butts. And then Zuckerberg, never wanting to fall behind in line of kissing up to power. And, you know, I mean, remember where these people come from too. Zuckerberg, as you know from the movie Social Media, basically originally invented Facebook because he was an incel dumped by a girl who couldn't handle the fact that nobody liked him. So he wanted to be able to take over their lives. And that's what he's able to do with Facebook, their private lives, because he didn't have one. He only got one once he got lots of money. Well, now he's getting rid of the guy who enabled Cambridge Analytica in 2016, enabled Vladimir Putin to help Donald Trump, is only slightly behind Elon Musk in terms of how evil he is now going to get rid of third-party fact checkers because we need more disinformation in our society. That's going to help us. That's going to get us to where we need to be with all the low information voters voting for Trump, with all the people that had no idea what was going on. And the key to this, of course, is the fact that he's going to do this as a little present, his tribute. As I said, have you ever seen the movie Flash Gordon? All different people come up and give their tributes to Ming the Merciless. That's what these billionaires are doing. It's pathetic. And if any one of them had the spine or the slightest bit of grit, they wouldn't do it. But most of them, of course, came from rich families where, you know, even Bezos and Zuckerberg came from wealthy families where, you know, mommy and daddy took care of them going to college and they could take the kinds of risks to make all of the money they made. Okay. Well, and you know, Bezos wants to get rid of the post office and turn Amazon into that. So we know what they're all doing. They've got, we're in an age that's nothing like it since the 1910s, 20s, 30s, when there were anarchists running around this country, the Populist Party. There were huge social movements because people had taken over such vast amounts of wealth and had taken over companies that had such competing interests to help themselves that the justice back then, Louis Brandeis, said, we can either have great disparities of wealth or we can have democracy. We cannot have both. And do I even need to get into what Elon Musk has been up to lately? Asking for people to be nicer. I'm going to promote nice content on Twitter right before saying F you, and I'll say a word that rhymes with it, petard, to somebody who criticized him. Yes, Elon Musk, the guy who's all about positive influences and nice things being said. That's basically what we're looking at here. Again, it was Deb Fischer's husband. He's a racist. He's a scumbag. He's an awful human being. And yeah, they stole somebody else's ranch because that's the billionaire mentality. They're not billionaires. They're just only multimillionaires. So life is tough considering, you know, a cup of coffee in Nebraska is like 2 cents. But they're multimillionaires and they got there by stealing what wasn't theirs. If that isn't Bezos and Zuckerberg, I don't know what is. So of course they wouldn't shake Kamala Harris's hand. They wouldn't shake my hand either, or below them. And it's why they think they should be able to make all of the laws in their little, you know, their little dreams, their little tech pro dreams, lying on their little my pillows, so that they can all just decide how the rest of us live. That's why unelected Elon Musk is in back rooms sharing his low EQ with anybody and everybody, and has been called out by 4 other countries, by the way. Macron just did, and so did Prime Minister, I believe, of Germany and whatever, as interfering in their elections. This is a world thing. We are up against billionaire, oligarch, autocrat dictators. We can decide we're going to fight them here and fight them abroad, or we can just let them have the world. But you can't appease them, and they can't appease Trump. They haven't realized it yet. But a couple of those oligarchs that appeased Putin ended up in prison or somewhere on a 5th floor balcony in a hotel where they didn't want to be. There's no loyalty both ways. So that's what that image represented to me. It's us versus them. Let's get back in the fight. I'm refreshed and ready to go. And I think the last thing I was going to tell you, you know, with the Zuckerberg thing, getting rid of the third party, you know, fact checking, it was so refreshing to go to another country because you get a different perspective. I sat and spoke to my friend, Guillaume, who is French, of course, and he was shocked I was trying to tell him what speech is already allowed here online, the kinds of hate speech and disinformation is allowed. And he could not believe a democracy would allow that. I've spoken about that here before. He couldn't believe it. I mean, he was like, we would go to prison for that. That's the way Canada would handle it. That's the way Germany would handle it. That's why they're still having problems, because Putin's going after them, but not the kinds of problems we are. Because we invited it all in under the guise of, under the acceptance of First Amendment extremism, as bad as our Second Amendment extremism and our Supreme Court. All the other things that they've corrupted and destroyed. There were limits on the First Amendment at one point in time. There still are some. And if you let disinformation destroy information and destroy democracy, what the hell is the point of it anyhow? Take on the Fischers and take on the Musks and the Bezoses. It's no time to sit down. I'm reinvigorated. I'm back. And I'm ready to frickin' go. So let's go.